Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of PLA with myself, Nick, and Bruno. We've got three questions today. And the first question is with regards to an interesting case recently dealing with spoliation. And we're going to just perhaps both Nick and Bruno can perhaps comment on this one. There has been a point of contestation or contention between regarding this matter, right? The judgment or the name of the case is the SK Enterprise judgment, and maybe what we'll do, we'll post a link in one of the actual the description box so that anybody can actually go and read it. But the recent case law really deals with the supply of electricity, discontinuation or disconnection of the supply of electricity. Does this necessarily form dispossession simply because it's a contractual obligation, or is it are we looking at specific performance versus actual dispossession? So maybe then going forward as well, is there any potential perhaps of significant changes in lease agreements? If that is the case, are actual consumers or tenants protected? Bruno and Nick, maybe just bounce around the answer there and provide some light, please.
Cool. Okay, cool. Well, look, firstly, from my side, I think it's important. Firstly, it's important to elaborate on the question on the specific terminology being utilized, right? And I think this is important for landlords and tenants to understand, as well as agents. Because the problem here is that we get these cases that come out where the courts allow disconnection or disallow a disconnection, or make orders restoring electricity, or refuse to make orders restoring electricity. And unfortunately, from outside the legal fraternity, people read these judgments and go, wow, the person got disconnected. Now there's an order and it refuses to allow them to be reconnected. Does this mean that people can disconnect at will? So long story short, no, right? Yes, people are very creative on how they come about with strategies to allow for disconnections and things like that. But 99% of the time, we face more problems when there's disconnections of power and water than without a court order. It's simple, 99% of the time. Whether it's a court case that deals with spoliation, you as a layperson, to be honest, the meaning of that terminology only helps if you understand exactly what process you need to follow in order to get the recourse that you want to get as a tenant. So if you're a tenant, yes, it's important because you need to say certain things to a court in order to be able to successfully attain that recourse. But the reality is, it speaks more about the journey, the method of getting to this outcome as opposed to the outcome itself. So 99% of the time, if electricity or water is disconnected, discontinued, dispossessed in any way at all, right, there's a remedy. So it's either going to the contract and saying, specific performance, you have to give me this. It's either calling it spoliation and saying, well, I've been unlawfully dispossessed, give it back to me. It's going to the Rental Housing Act, if it's a residential property, looking at the unfair practices and saying, you're supposed to give me water and lights. You've stopped giving me water and lights. Give it back to me. It's an unfair practice to disconnect me, right? There's always something. There's always some form of recourse. So I think that's very important to remember. These cases and how they're dealt with, whether it's spoliation or not, is more about the delivery of the recourse as opposed to whether there's recourse or not. So Nick, I don't know if you want to take it from that point.
Yeah, look, I think really with these cases, the devil is in the detail, because there are a lot of cases that come out and they have, if you just read them on a face value, and a lot of people, as you said, but most people don't go reading through case law like we do, and trying to flesh out these details. They want to see the highlights. They want to see, okay, what did the judge say, and sort of take it from there. And unfortunately, if you do that, if you take these judgments on a face value, you're going to get, number one, you're going to get conflicting decisions that seem to bounce off one another. And number two, you're going to act incorrectly in the circumstances. You're going to get in trouble. So the devil's really in the details. The one solid thing that we do have when it comes to these cases: disconnection, electricity, water. And the one thing that almost every court agrees on, okay, is that you can't take the law into your own hands and just dispossess people of their utilities. Okay, how the court gets there, okay, can change from case to case depending on what the details of the particular cases are. But every court in this country is on the same page, in the sense that they say you cannot just take actions without judicial oversight. Okay, the court needs to have some level of approval process where they are, giving authority for something to happen in the circumstances. It's the same thing as doing an eviction. You can't do the eviction yourself. You've got to seek redress from the court. The court has got to have some level of oversight to say, is it okay in the circumstances? Is it just inequitable? So I think it's important that we highlight these cases, because certainly if you're going to go read the highlight, okay, there's now a judgment which basically says that you can't do it once again. And if you go read a different case from 6 months back, it's going to be the opposite direction. Really, you're not going to get what the essence of these rulings are. I think what's important in the circumstances is for our landlords, for our agents, don't just go read the headline and decide, okay, fantastic, I can do whatever I want. That's how you get in trouble. That is what this case was. Unfortunately, a landlord just disconnecting in the circumstances and a court overturning that in the particular, in this particular case. Why that happened is a complex reason. The details of the particular matter were important, and the details are where you need to get these things right. That's where you need to seek, help from a legal representative to make sure that you don't wind up in a similar situation.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, there you have it. So thank you, gentlemen. It's always exciting seeing the laws and the legislation being challenged, because it at least means that people aren't taking things as they are, and the profession is obviously growing, and there's robust discussions. So thank you very much for answering that question. And then we'll move on to the second